Hello, everyone. So while we wait for people, just saying, today's message from the Anunnaki is incredible. Okay, and there's a lot. There is a lot of things coming through. And so just in general, today we'll be talking about individualism, how we have psychic capabilities, and my abilities are different than your abilities, but they could be the same. And so we're going to be exploring that relationship, and then also we'll be diving into the messages from the Anunnaki collective, and specifically the being that I was connecting to today. I don't normally get names, and so it was really interesting to get a name today, but his name is Annkai, 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 and so that's who the messages came through, and he's, just an ambassador for the Anunnaki collective. So, let's just get into it, because I'm just so excited, and I have notes, and so if I'm looking down, it's just because I'm, making sure I stay on track. So, and hello. So let's talk a little bit about the individualism within psychic capabilities, because my ability, so many people have these same abilities. You are clairvoyant, you're claircognizant, you're an empath. There's so many abilities out there, and so many people have these same abilities, but my abilities are different than your abilities. Hi, Lachey. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So we're just talking a little bit about individualism within our abilities. And so my gifts are different than your gifts, but we can define them as empath or light worker or clairvoyant, claircognizant. I do tarot readings. We have similar gifts, but that doesn't mean we are the same person. And that going into more of the collective consciousness, this whole unifying the human collective has been something that I've, my subconscious has been what? I don't want to be the same person as the person next to me. I don't want to know all their things and be that person. But simply that meaning that as a collective, the humankind, we are all individuals. And so we are, if you think of ants, each ant is an individual working for the whole system, but it's going this way as another one's going this way. They have a similar purpose of getting food and bringing it back to the colony, but they're individual ants. And so that's basically my perspective on that. But when we get into spiritual gifts, I guess you could say, this is where it gets a little fuzzy, because you can, a lot of people are well, do you see spirits or do you not see spirits? Do you hear voices? Do you not hear voices? And it's not so cut and dry. There's an in-between where my clairvoyance is not physicalized, but I still consider myself clairvoyant. And so that is where my gifts are different than somebody else's, and my gifts are going to connect through me, and my connections, my experiences are going to provide a connection from me with the guides, spirits, and the beings that I connect to. Whereas yours are going to connect to some other people, other beings. It's not going to be the same. And so when people are saying well, I got this information from these people, that is where this difference comes in. Well, my experiences and my understanding, my perception, and my view of the world, I guess that's the same thing, but my view of the world is going to have me connecting with different beings than somebody else. And so this goes into a little bit, since it's spooky season, with all of us watching our scary horror films. If there are people who are watching horror films year-round, I guess you could say, and so they're more immersed in that state, in that being, in those things, we have that experience is them, and that's what's going on. Whereas, for me, I watch it, maybe every now and then, because those aren't the beings that I want to be connecting with and opening myself up to. And so there's that difference of my experiences opening me up to certain beings. Other people's experiences are opening them up to certain beings. So, interested in what you guys have to say. Also, throughout this entire thing, if you have questions, shoot them down in the comment box. Even if you're listening later, go ahead and shoot them down in the comment box. I'll try to get back to them and answer them. If you're watching live, I know there's a cute little question mark right there. Anyways, so moving on. this is our spiritual gifts. This is why certain things resonate and certain things don't. And that is why I am me and you are you, because things resonate with me, whereas other things don't resonate with me. And things resonate with you that don't resonate with me. And that is where we are two different individuals, two different beings within this realm, within this dimension, experiencing completely different things while being in the third dimension, if that makes sense. So, that is why some people say yes to certain experiences. That's why some people say no to those same experiences. Because we are all individual within a collective. That is what is happening. And so within the individualism, we are all individuals and we are all experiencing this, blinking. We're all experiencing this whole system that's coming in like this. And we have different aspects from different parts of ourselves that are coming through us and projecting through us as me, Landon, and then you, as you are. We're having this discord and we're having this conversation that's happening between my experiences, my abilities, your abilities, and that is where this whole web and grid comes together, and that is why we have this reality, because my experiences, your experiences, whatever is the middle creates the experience. And so my experience is that I have a wall behind me. Your experience is that you see a wall behind me, and so there's a wall behind me. Yeah? And so that's just like a little general breakdown. But yeah. I'm actually just really excited to get to this Annunaki Collective messages. So I'm just going to dive right on into it. And I do have my laptop open just in case I forget anything, but I have like notes from the notes. So the people that I connected to today was the Annunaki Collective. And generally for me, I feel and I know. And so when I'm seeing things, I can get images, but mainly it's a vibration of, are they holding love? Is it a love-centered space? And is it gratitude? Is it a higher frequency? That's how I connect. And so when people are like, I see beings, today I actually did see, but yeah, so that's a whole thing. But today I connected with one individual, one being from the collective, and he wanted to make sure that I specified that he is just one ambassador. He is one of the Annunaki ambassadors. His name is Annkai, Annkai, and I don't normally get names, so I was like, oh cool, I get a name today, awesome. And so he's one of the Annunaki ambassadors, and he is the spokes consciousness for them at this time to me. Whereas there can be another ambassador. If you were to connect with the Annunaki Collective, it could potentially be the same one, or it could potentially be a different ambassador. And so this was just the one that connected with me today. His name is Annkai, super chill. Yeah, really nice. I really liked it, connecting with him. But the first thing when I was just like, how I channel is I sit down and I close my eyes, connect, and then I just type out any words that come to me type of thing. And the first real sentence after like our hellos and everything was, love is not neutrality. And so a lot of us within the spiritual community are like, live in love, live in light, sending you love and light. And that is, yes, raising the frequency, raising the vibration of this dimension, but it is not neutrality. Where neutrality is seeing the light and seeing the dark, living in the middle of observing. And so yes, sending love, sending light, but then also understanding when it just happens naturally, because we're all human. I know we all do it, so I'm like, don't try to hide it, but we all send darkness. We all send darkness at the same time. We send love and light, and then in our mind, when we have a bad experience or somebody annoys us and we're just like, why'd you do that? That's darkness. And so love is not neutrality, and understanding when we send love, when we send light, we're raising the frequency, and yes, sending love and light is getting more consistent. And so it's raising, but that doesn't mean that the darkness is diminishing. It just means that we are rising above into a space that opens up this gap between, so that we can, be in observance more often. So that was a big one that he wanted to say, but he said, by limiting to love, we forego connection to the complete other education of this polarized world. And so by living in love, living in light, yay, gratitude, I can just speak into the universe what I want and I get it. But then we're just discounting the fact that we also have to work for everything within this dimension. It is still a third dimensional density at this current time. So there's just that whole thing. So do not be bypassing that darkness. Do not be bypassing that darkness. And just an example that came to my mind was that healers study the dark. Whereas many people, like doctors study medicine. There was that meme going around a while ago, how doctors study medicine, but then healers study the dark. Because studying the dark allows us to transmute it into the light, leaving space in the middle for that observance, for that neutrality, which is where that fifth dimensional consciousness comes into play. So the next little bullet point, because I broke these down into bullet points, I was like, this is a lot of information. It was literally like 2 pages of size 11 font. The original mission of humanity was to be balanced. The original mission of humanity was to balance. This was not similar to the moon. If you guys haven't checked out my latest YouTube video, it's on the moon, 3 things you need to know about the moon. Check it out. But the original mission of humanity was balance. And this wasn't, let's see, this was meant to show the complexity of the universe, what did I say? Meant to show the complexity of the universal misfortunes and how we live in harmony. And so we have so many species in existence, and not all of them get along, aka Western Earth, Eastern Earth. Like, we don't get along, even Western Earth and anyone, basically. And so when this is coming in and humans are just here to be balanced, and it's just like, can we be in a balanced state? Because we have so many DNA strands within us. We have reptilian, we have angelic, we have human, yes, we also have Anunnaki, we have Pleiadian, we have, who else? We have plenty, Gray, we have Lyran. Like, there's so many DNA strands within us, and so when we are living with that DNA within us, and they are arguing up there in the cosmos, and they're having wars and everything, and they're just watching humans be like, hey, that's hilarious, because they have all of our problems, but they're not aware of it. And so when we are fighting and we're being manipulative, but then we're also living in a high vibrational state, it's just like these polarities that are just playing with each other and trying to find balance. And that was the original mission of the human collective, is that they put us here, they put all of us in here, they said, I want this DNA and this one, we're going to stir it in a pot, here you go, humans, have fun, basically, because there's also a little thing that the Galactic Federation did that said, by the way, all universal things, you're not allowed to interfere or intervene with the humans. You are not allowed to touch them. And given, yes, there's been contacts, and yes, there's been like exposure, and things are coming more into the light at this time, and even going back like thousands of years, like aliens have been here. But that's because they're watching what humans are doing and making sure we basically don't blow up the universe. Yeah, makes sense? Yeah. And that being said, there's this thing that I channeled a while ago. It was probably around... it was like last year. I went to Sedona on a trip, and I was sitting at the top of one of the vortexes. But this thing came through, and it's called the Harmonizer. And if you guys haven't checked out my video, I don't remember which one, but I talked about the Harmonizer a little bit, and I was reading a book this morning, and the Harmonizer came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to talk about this. And so basically what this is, it's a device used to enslave humans. It's basically a mind control device. Not that there's nothing in existence that can take away our free will. It can simply forcefully suggest, I guess you could say, for us to do things. And this was a weapon. This was a device that was used way back when to control humans by reptilians, by the Arcturians. Like, that was what was used to control humans. But it does have an expiration, so I do want to make this known that this Harmonizer, if, and this was a big one that Annkai spoke in, he was saying like if and whens. He was making sure that it could happen, in one timeline. It could happen. There's a potential for it to happen, but then in another timeline, it could also like be the thing that happens. And so he was very much like, once it happens or if it happens. There's still like this debate because we're switching timelines left and right. And so basically, anyways, it expires, basically. Is if they were to turn this thing on or inject this into us, there is an expiration to it. It wears off, basically. And it's, from my interpretation, it's been told to me that it's called the Harmonizer, and I haven't heard anybody else. But yeah, so, and then let's see. Yeah, just because it's a complex state that's happening right now. And so what else did I say? As we regain consciousness, it is harder to predict the future of timelines. And this is something that I've seen around a little bit. And then Annkai was just like, yeah, we just don't know what's going to happen. We know that it's happening for the highest state of the conscious, the human consciousness, but we don't know like the specifics, just because the more we raise our conscious choice and that we choose what's happening, that is what happens. Like, the more we choose throughout our day, they have no idea what we're going to choose. Whereas when we were asleep, when we were making unconscious decisions, it was very easy for them to predict 30 years in the future, 22 years, even 3 months from now. They're like, we have no idea what's going on, just because we are raising the conscious levels of our state. And specifically, he said, this is a quote, with the amount of consciousness impeding the planet, there is no returning to a time of silence. It will only get louder. And so with that being said, this is, we've been raising, and there's no stopping this train. It's going choo-choo, get out of the way, because I ain't stopping. It's only gonna get louder. So like, super excited, but also like, prepare. Has been a thing, but then he specified, this was like mind-blowing, he said, y'all need to prepare, and then he backtracked and said, in human terminology, I guess the word remember would be more prudent, basically. Prepare equals remember. We just need to remember. We've all been freaking out about like, oh my gosh, do I need to get more water? Oh my gosh, do I need more granola bars? Like, no, we just need to remember, and then in that remembrance, we'll know exactly what to do. Like, that is what is going on. Remembering ourselves, remembering why we're here, what's our purpose, what lifetimes have we learned from, and what can we use now, those lessons, because we've been training for lifetimes for this life. We just need to remember that, and then we will be here. So, prepare equals remember. Another big download. I was like, oh my God, I have to tell people. So this feels familiar to many. This time feels familiar to a lot of people. And even myself, I was like, what? This feels familiar? Oh, you know what? I guess you're right. This feels extremely familiar. Like a lot of deja vu, or just like really excited because I already know what's going to happen, or like it's just something that's happening and going on. And so just this feeling of familiarity has been entwined into all of this. And so for everyone, for a lot of people, it's this experience of we've been here before. And he spoke on this, is that we have lived lifetimes before this, and where we have been Pleiadians, we have been Anunnaki, we have been all these people, and us here now, the way shores, the light workers, that is basically our job. That is our job, to be in the ascension process and bring information, to bring downloads, to raise the frequency of certain dimensions. That is what we are for. That is what we do. That's literally what we do. And that's why this time feels so familiar, is because we've done it. We do it. That's what we do. And so when I asked then what we do about when I asked what timeline, like a timeline update, he said there's 2 different potentialities for timelines that we're on right now. The first one is that the light just like, yay, the light wins, yay, awesome. The second one is that it's just postponed. There is, again, he said, like, there's no returning to silence. Like, it's just not an option. And he talked about because we're stubborn. As humans, us, like, right now, we are stubborn, and so there's no opportunity for us to backtrack. nothing. We're like, I don't want to wait. I want this now. Like, sound familiar? We want this now. We're stubborn. And so we're not allowing ourselves to backtrack. We are like pushing forward through the resistance. We're like, nope, we want this right now. And so we're going to get this right now. So those are the two timelines. He didn't specify, since it is a timeline that we're on, he's like basically like, you guys are on two timelines and you keep hopping back and forth between them. So that's just that little update. What else? Collective can... Oh, this is something I was thinking about. He talked about the collective, and when we enter into a collective consciousness, there's a lot of people that are like, oh my gosh, I don't become individual. And I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but when we enter into a collective consciousness, you are still the individual. You just have a higher purpose because you're a part of a whole. You being whole in yourself, a part of a bigger whole. And so when we are able to be in this collective state, we are aligned with a higher purpose and a higher state of awareness of ourself. And so when we have, like me, if I connect to the collective consciousness and then I know information that's in the grid that's around Earth from the collective state, we have this collective awareness that's happening right now where we are all connecting into it, feeding it information, it being ourselves. We're feeding ourselves information by connecting with each other, basically. And he specified, like, you have the option to connect to and disconnect from the collective at any time. It's not like you enter in and they lock the door and they're like, have fun. No, that's not what happens. You enter into the collective consciousness and you can explore, expand, and give to the collective, but then you can also receive and recede. Basically, you can leave. You don't have to be stuck there for eternity. And so there was this thing that he talked about of the humans being on a stage. The humans are on a stage right now. And basically, for all of existence, we have been on a stage. And right now, specifically, everybody is just looking at humanity and being like, what's gonna happen? We don't know what's gonna happen. But we have all been in rehearsals. So going more on the artsy side, if you guys have been in rehearsals, yay, awesome, my people. But basically we have been in rehearsals or practice, like whatever it is, we have been practicing and preparing, rehearsing for this time. Now, the curtains are raising. They're not quite raised all the way, but they are raising. They can see our feet and our knees. They can see us dancing around. And it's raising. There are secrets being spilled. There's more secrets coming. There's all the shadow stuff is coming out. And so this is what is happening. We are releasing. And releasing all of that stuff. And as we continue to release and bring all the secrets to the surface, we are raising this curtain where not only the audience can see us, but we can see the audience. And we are aware of the audience there. And there is an open interaction, an open exchange of energy. And so if you guys have felt it, whether it's like for sports, there's the crowd, or if you're more into the arts, there's the audience. And so whatever it is, there's an exchange of energy between performing live for someone or to people. There's something interesting that happens is that you go from practice and then you go into a performance state and you get a hit of adrenaline. You get this energy that came from nowhere because there's so much exchange going on. You being your whole self doing what it is that you are doing, but then them also receiving, but not only receiving, but then giving back appreciation or reaction, or they could even give back some tomatoes, I guess you could say, you know, which I find super funny because he brought that up. But so that's what's happening, is that is how they are supporting us, and that is how we are supporting them, is that there's an exchange of energy that is happening. It's not just us doing things, like they're doing their own journey up there. They're also just like watching this 2020 episode. But yeah, so that's really, really important. We support them by raising our consciousness. By raising our consciousness, we are supporting them because we are opening our human up to finally connecting. They miss us. They miss us. That's really it, is that we have alternate selves, I guess you could say, within the Pleiadians, within the Anunnaki, within the Greys, within the angels. Like, we have alternate selves within these higher dimensions, and they just miss us. They're like, please remember us. Please raise your awareness and consciousness levels so that you can connect with us and be with us. And that is what is happening right now, is that we are raising our consciousness not only to give back to Gaia and return her to her fullness, but also to connect with ourselves. That's what's happening. And so the message that he specified, he wanted to specify that I read word for everyone, is just this message to humanity. So I'm going to read it from my computer. It says, "Greetings from the Annunaki Collective. This is the Annunaki Ambassador Annkai speaking to you. Many of you have witnessed things in your past that have caused you to question your sanity. It may have caused you to question the teachings of your parents, teachers, and leaders, but nonetheless you had the experience. Created in perfect alignment for your journey in this world. What are you meant to be doing? Are you living this purpose?" And so those are two very specific questions that he made sure, like, specify. What are you meant to be doing? And then, are you doing it, basically? Are you living it? Many of you are not. Many of you are not, and it baffles our collective mind as we live in aligned action as a way to exist. And so the Annunaki Collective is just this Annunnakian collective. That is what they are, and they live in aligned action as their existence, whereas us in the human realm are like, we get into alignment and then we leave it. We get into alignment and then we leave it. And so it like baffles their mind that we just can't maintain it, and they're like, we support you in this journey because we knew we were there. But they said, "But we remember the days when alignment was less a way of being and more a force external to ourselves. We have compassion for you and are here for guidance. Currently, you face polarity from every angle of this dualistic dimension. You are racking your mind for truth and researching what and why and when. Take a pause and search within you as you would a computer. Type into your inner search bar the questions you may have." And that's where he left it. That's where he left it. He was like, just type into your inner search bar any questions you have, and what I get from that is that we know our own resonance. We know what resonates, we know what doesn't resonate, and we just have that ego mind that likes to second guess ourselves, be like, do I really know that? Is that really it? Because then if we were to say that to someone and somebody disagrees with us, we're faced with failure. And again, those feelings of failure, which we all like to battle with, sometimes daily. And so he talked about just like searching your inner search bar, typing it in, being like, okay, what is my response to this question? What is my response to this question? And seeing the polarity between the two, and you're like, which one do I choose? Do I choose? Which one do I choose? Do I choose? Or do I make my own choice? What's going on? And so that's really what they were talking about. Not only are we not all living in aligned action, I'm like, I understand that I'm not living in aligned action 100% of the time. And so I'm like, hearing you loud and clear. Thank you, Annkai. And so how can we maintain that aligned action and keep it going? Just taking a little bit of guidance from the Annunaki Collective. That is where they exist. That is how they are living. That is what they do. Because when everyone is living in aligned action, everything runs so smoothly. You have people that their aligned action is being a chef. So we have food. There are people who their aligned action are being farmers. There are people who their aligned action is being the mailman. Like, that is their aligned action. And so what is your aligned action? What is in alignment with you? What is that alignment for you, and why aren't you living it? What is that blockage? What is that resistance, and why aren't you allowing it to flow through freely? Again, I asked that specifically. Why are you not allowing it? It's not somebody else. It's not your mom. It's not your grandma. It's not your child. It's not your uncle. It's you. Why aren't you living in that alignment? You're the only one standing in your way. So, one more time. You're the only one standing in your way. Okay? And so when we're talking about aligned action, that is what is being pushed as the major message from Annkai, the Annunaki Ambassador that I connected with today. Our aligned action will lead us into a higher state of frequency vibration, and that will anchor in even more awareness and even more truth. Okay? Whew! That was a lot of information. So, I did just want to open this up for questions, and if there's not any questions, because I know that was a lot of information, definitely understand. Feel free to just comment them now, comment them later. But wow, that was a lot. That was a lot, and I did that in like 30 minutes. That was wow. Okay, so this is open to questions. Just finishing up the message from the Annunaki Collective. So now we're just opening it up for questions. Anybody have questions? Or I think I'm gonna wait like 2 minutes because I know the thing is delayed, but that is okay. And then I'll answer any questions. So yeah, let's do that. We'll just open it up. Questions. Or comments or concerns. And it can literally be about anything. This can be about the Annunaki message that I just said. This can be about what I talked about at the beginning with being individuals within our own abilities. This can also be about literally anything. Divine guidance. This can be about psychic abilities. This can be about your intuition. This can be about like your perspective on things. I just keep seeing hearts and I'm like, I'll keep talking. I'll just keep talking, that's okay. But, let's see. I'm not seeing any questions, which is totally okay. Let's see. Oh, no. Nope. Let's see. I just keep seeing hearts, and I'm like, thank you, guys. It means a lot. So, I think I'm just going to recap this last little bit, and then I'll end it. And so we talked about at the beginning a little bit of just being an individual within this reality. How I am me and you are you. And we can have similar abilities, similar gifts, me being an empath, clairvoyant, claircognizant. We can have these abilities, but they appear differently. Like for me, my clairvoyance, sometimes I physically see shadows or whatnot, but a lot of times it's just my inner eye seeing things. But again, that's still seeing. And so that is how I see things. But then also, when I see things, or when I connect to beings, they're going to be different than if you were to connect to someone. If you were to connect to, say, your ancestors, I would see them differently than you see them, if that makes sense. Because I have my own ego self. Yes, we all have that ego. And so we all have our own ego self. We all have our own experiences and perceptions. And within that is how we are going to perceive the world. And so that's where the difference comes in. And then we moved into more of like the messages from the Annunaki, which really exciting. If you guys didn't hear them, definitely go back and watch the rest of this video. But with that, I'm going to end it. And yeah, thank you guys all for watching. And tune back in next Thursday, 3:33, live every week. Okay, see ya. Bye.